Welcome, everybody, to S.K. Walker Law Mechanic. It's our podcast. My name is Scott Walker, your host, and as we spoke about in the past, I get the privilege in my line of work and in the Southern Illinois area of working with just phenomenal people that are doing great things in the community. So I thought it would be interesting and develop the podcast out as I'm going to just give everyone an opportunity to kind of have the benefit of the rewards that I get from working with the community and great people. So to start today, one of my guests is a phenomenal lady that I met in law school and had the privilege of working with a little bit after law school. She's I'll let her tell you her bio rather than me leaving stuff out. But the short version is she's done her own thing before law school, and so did I. So we're both kind of non-traditional law students, if you will. Had a lot of life pre-law school and pre-lawyer, and we're out in the world, experienced a lot of things, and bring that to our practice of law. So it's a unique view and a unique spin on how to practice law that we kind of both share mutually. And so I want to give her the microphone a little bit. She's got a really interesting event coming up, and she does a lot in the community what I want people to know about. So I'll give her some welcome. Thanks for coming out and talking to us, Lynn. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, Scott. This is phenomenal. First of all, I just want to say that meeting Scott in law school was just a very cool experience. We were a member of the group called the Owls, the older, wiser law students.
There you go.
Who did bring a lot of life. And I don't know if Scott has talked to you about some of the interesting things that happened in law school.
Not a lot.
He played a part in really being a hero for our class, but I don't want to tell his story.
I know where you're going with this.
I
okay.
really, can I tell it?
You can.
We had a colleague that became gravely ill during, I believe, a class. I wasn't on campus that day. I was at
he
Morris.
Was in the moot court, and they were doing their moot court practice. I believe for I'm not sure what class it was, but they were in there doing their practice courtroom, whatever class that was. So.
Yeah, and I understand that he was doing his, which is incredibly stressful for all law students.
Yes.
And he fell over, lost consciousness.
Yes.
And a couple of really fast, quick thinkers. Scott was a medic, I believe, and had that background. EMT.
Early
See, you need to tell your own story. But anyway, okay. I just know there were three people that really, because of their quick response, with Scott being one of them, literally saved his life. His heart had stopped, and they went and got the defibrillator. What's it called?
The electronic defibrillator. And we did CPR, and he's alive and well, and actually finished law school too. He was able to finish law school after that traumatic event. So
yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, there's like I said, we have a lot of really colorful stories throughout both of our lives. So that's why I wanted to put a microphone and let people know that. And the idea behind the podcast isn't really, and we talked about this, not really a commercial for the law firm or anything, but it's this is who we are, and this is what we're doing, and this is the cool, awesome people that I get to work with every day and interact with, and so people can figure out if I'm the right fit for them to help them out. And if you do have any things you guys need help with, you need some law advice, you want to talk to an attorney, we have all of our information and contact information for Lynn and myself available. We're out there on the internet. Our web pages, mine's skwalkerlaw.com. You have your own web page?
I don't.
Are you up on Facebook or?
Well, Legacy does.
Legacy.
So I can talk to you a little bit about that, but no, 98% of my business is word of mouth.
And that's not surprising. If you get to meet Lynn and get to interact with her more, you'll know why that people send business, and she doesn't have to really spend a lot of money on marketing because she is her own marketing campaign. Just her personality and knowledge and wisdom is great.
I was an influencer before social media
yes.
turned, because I figured out, if I don't work, I'm not going to eat.
And
so there you go.
If you're good to people and you're driven and you stay focused and you associate with good people, good things happen. And we're kind of at the stage now where we're both trying to give back a little bit. And that just pays big dividends as well. We're learning it's almost hard to give away, because if you start giving to people it comes back tenfold sometimes, most of the time. So it's great. I don't want to spend too much time because you and I can come on. You've got a lot of other events. You and I can come on and chat some more, and people will get the benefit of your wisdom and our background and stuff. But I really want to talk about the event you have coming up. It's a big event. I thought it was really cool, and I wanted you to give you the opportunity to talk about that, so that people will see what we have going on in the community.
Well, certainly. Prior to law school, I founded with my husband at the time, an organization called Legacy Training. And basically, we had a lot of conversations. We both grew up in less than ideal circumstances, and we talked a lot about poverty. I'd spent many years of my career working at a federally qualified health center, right, and saw the disparities around health. And my husband was a professional artist, a right, visual artist. So we combined our interests and said, we can really help people in poverty if we can help them be physically healthier. And also we can do spiritual and mind and all of the wonderful things that the arts brings to our lives. So Legacy, our vision is to alleviate poverty of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And we do that by promoting health and expanding the arts in underserved communities.
That's great. I love it.
So that's our vision and our mission. We were recently one of the 26 grantees through something called the Healing Illinois Initiative. The technical title is Healing Illinois, Building a Bridge to a Racially Equitable Illinois. So it's a wonderful project, yes, that we hopped on. I mean, it really fit with our vision, sure, our mission.
Good match.
We developed 2 projects. One we're here to talk about is the art, but the other project we have is we're really trying to gather some data around communities and policing of color. Not going to talk about that one today because that's a whole show in itself.
Yeah, it could be. Yes.
But we're hoping to develop a white paper of recommendations, not beating up, loving everybody, but just if there are some issues, helping and yeah, bringing people in the academy, right? Great minds, people in the academy, to bridge that gap and say, how can we help? Right. But this particular project is called the Artist Collective on Race, Equity, and Unity. And I turned and grinned at this awesome lady to the right that I'm going to introduce you to. We're going to have 6 virtual events. The first one is actually this Saturday night, April the 24th, featuring spoken word artists, Samuel Hawkins and Jacob Gipson. I challenged our artists to find an artist that's white, our black artist that's white, that you have not collaborated with as much in the past, and I challenged all of that. So we've got some unique, probably never would have happened collaborations, as well as masterful performances.
That's great.
So the first one, the spoken word artist, is one of the 2 that there's a live component. They'll be broadcasting live from the Harold S. Jones Fine Arts Center in Cairo, Illinois.
Awesome.
And again, that's 7 o'clock this Saturday night. We also have visual artists as well as performance artists. I'm excited that we have a nationally known artist, Howard Hewett, formerly of the group Shalimar. He will be, we're calling it an evening and inspiration.
Wow.
And we also will be doing a gospel fest dedicated to the memory of George Floyd.
Great.
So those events are happening in May. Howard Hewett, May the 15th. Best of Both Worlds, the Gospel Fest, will be May the 29th.
Do you guys, I know you've done a press release here, but so
I have with all the dates.
Is this up somewhere on the website where people can reach it and find out all your dates?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Why don't you go ahead and give them that?
Our website is legacytraininginc.com.
Great.
And what we're here with the guests is the visual arts show. DeSande was one of the artists that responded to our call and submitted a proposal to not only show pieces of her work via Zoom and YouTube Live and our streaming platforms, but she wanted to talk specifically, and I've got my cheat sheet here, about the Crown Act. That stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. She's going to share about that, and I'd like to introduce you. She's a native of this community, at least has been here for a long time. Maybe not a native. She can tell you that.
I've been here since 1996, September 1st.
All right.
Okay.
And she's an art educator at John A. Logan College, as well as an accomplished visual artist. And I wanted her to come and talk about her role as a member of the Artist Collective with this project, and a little bit about what's going to happen with her performance. Her art
That's
show.
great. That's great. Sure. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
So what you want to kick off or?
Yes. I decided to choose the Crown Act, which is legislation and law that's in effect in very few states right now. It's creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. The official campaign of the Crown Act is led by the Crown Coalition, and the website is www.thecrownact.com. You can find a lot of information on there.
Yeah, this is the first I've heard of it today, so I'm even being educated myself, everybody. So
Yes, I have been watching the news a lot about what's been happening to mostly children in school and how they have their hair. If they had braids and had a little color in it, they would tell them they had to go back home.
Sure.
They sent them back home. They were very upset. It was picture day for one child, and she was so distraught. And, the mother was upset.
Sure.
So it was on the news, and someone found out about it. That was a photographer. He gave her own photo shoot.
That's awesome.
With her hair the way it was. And it was very exciting for her. I was so happy for her to see that. And the Crown Act basically talks about how people are being discriminated for their hair in the workplace, at schools, in several places of businesses, and it's quite horrible what's happening
Sure.
to them.
Some of the old standards of what's acceptable to wear or how you wear your hair to work is probably very dated. So I can understand that. Yeah. So
Yeah. And in the 80s, about the late 70s or early 80s, something came out called the relaxer, or we called it the perm, which straightened our hair chemically. And my mother was a beautician at the time, and I had a fro for a long time, an afro, in 8th grade. And then about that time in the summer, my mother had relaxed my hair. It was something new. It was easier to manage. But the toll on a person's hair and skin, got really bad from perms. And recently, my hair fell out.
Oh, so you personally can relate to this
I
issue.
can relate to this.
Got it.
The chemicals were bad. It's bad for your skin. It's bad for your health. And I had dyed my hair and then put it on. That was a mistake, and it just fell out. And I could have cried.
Yeah.
I have this thing about my hair. I hate it when it gets short or falls
Sure.
out. It's disturbing. But with this Crown Act, a lot of people are being discriminated in the workplace. So they wanted to have some laws passed, and it's in a few states. Let me see if I had the list of the states.
So is this what inspired you to produce these paintings that you're going to be showing us?
Yes, well, they're actually linoleum block prints.
Oh,
Yeah, linoleum
Talk to
block
us
prints.
about that as a media.
yeah.
A lot of people don't know
Interesting.
about linoleum block prints because
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's usually done on wood.
Yeah.
Carving images into wood,
Sure.
inking it, putting the paper on, running it through the press. So I'm using actual linoleum, like linoleum on the kitchen floor.
Sure.
But it's taken and put on a wood block, adhered to the wood block, same size. And so I take carving tools, but first I draw the image in, and then I ink it with Sharpie marker so that when I ink it, the pencil doesn't come off.
Okay.
And then I carve out of the negative space. So what's raised is inked. So you see the image that's inked. And it comes in reverse once I pull the paper off.
Interesting. Wow. I'd say I don't have that artist side of my brain that works very well. But I appreciate it. I just don't have that kind of talent. So it's pretty impressive. I love it.
And they're the show. Their event is on Juneteenth. Do you know about Juneteenth?
I know a little bit about it.
Okay.
So what do you got? Is this just the visual art that day, or
Well,
what?
Juneteenth is actually kind of a holiday in the African American
Right.
community. It was when the Emancipation Proclamation. I believe, was it Texas first to send?
I believe it was.
Yeah,
actually,
it was Texas. And they do a celebration here in Carbondale every year.
Yes.
That maybe some folks have been about. So anyway, theirs will be the evening of Juneteenth. So
Is that
easy
in
to
Cairo as well?
remember.
Or are we doing that live, or is that virtual?
We haven't talked about it. Our original plan was virtual,
Right.
But if they wanted to be at the Fine Arts Center, we could do both. But we'll have both options.
So things are improving
everybody's
with
virtual.
COVID now a little bit, so you have some
Yeah.
more options open. But we've
Yeah.
all gotten so accustomed to doing things virtual now. So
The center is big, but with COVID restrictions, we can seat about 30 people. So a small group will be gathering for a couple of these events.
that's great. So plenty of
so-
room for social distancing and all that stuff if we wanted to do it live.
Yeah.
That's great.
But everybody, the whole planet can access us now because of the virtual platform. So we really want to take advantage of that as
How
well.
many artists are there that night? It's just are you
DeSande is one of four.
four?
The other artist involved is Professor Najjar Muzawir.
Abdul Musawir.
Abdul Muzawir, thank you. I should know this. We've been friends forever, and I left out that. And he's also your mentor.
Yes.
Yes. And then Mike Ferris, Dr. Mike Ferris, who was the instructor as well as the chair of the department at Shawnee Community College for a while.
Oh, okay.
And he left, but he's doing a show called The Riot Show, which is going to talk about the history of the riot in Springfield, Illinois.
Wow.
A lot
Yeah.
of people don't know about it.
lot
So
of
it's going to be not only, it's meeting one of the goals of this initiative, which I'll read it again, facilitate learning in areas of racism and racial equity. Like the whole thing with the hair. As you can see, mine looks very different than hers, but mine is natural hair, but I still heat and straighten it. And I struggled with that, Scott. I'm going into courtrooms, which are very, of course, formal, and
Yes.
and I'm working in Southeast Missouri as the only African-American female in about 27 counties in the Booty Hole and
we talked
on.
about
And,
that. Yeah.
and so I really struggled because I wore my hair curly, kind of a modified afro. And I shouldn't have to do that, you know.
You're right.
But I did.
Yeah. A lot of people probably don't appreciate what it takes just for anyone to kind of fit the mold of females in general. Somebody who's got, I guess,
Older, wiser.
yes, you're
You
right.
know,
So they don't.
Every one of us has to struggle with some ism on any given
You're
day.
right. There's a lot of preconceived notions that probably just don't belong around anymore at all.
Exactly.
But they're
Well, we
still
were-
out there. I mean,
but
you
we
can't
were-
ignore them.
And we were talking about Southern Illinois.
Yes.
I think of the isms that I would be subject to, which would be sexism, racism, ageism. I've experienced more ruralism.
Yes.
When I worked in cities, and you're from Grand Chain, I've never heard of that. Where is that? And if you say you're from Illinois, all they can relate to is Chicago.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And sometimes I'd be in rooms where I would be challenged because they made assumptions that I was unsophisticated and uneducated. And
And there's even a little bit of that just from what I say, the northern side of Southern Illinois versus the Southern Illinois.
Yes.
That some of those views are shared as well.
Yes.
If you're from way down south in Illinois, and that's somebody coming from maybe just the Carbondale area,
Yeah.
they might have a different view. So you're right. It is. It really is pervasive. Too much.
And that's why I'm so excited about this project, because it is a healing Illinois,
Yes.
specifically Southern Illinois, but it's about the conversations.
Yes.
For example, I've invited co-facilitators for the conversations that are a part of all of these events, that are leaders, that are thought leaders, that are very much at the forefront. For example, Senator Dale Fowler is going to be co-facilitating the session on healing through hip-hop.
Great. Wow.
Dr. Timothy Taylor, I think I already mentioned, is going to be co-facilitating their session, who educated me that there are African-American heavy metal artists.
There absolutely are.
And what a connection there is to the blues that I didn't really realize. And just the conversation about the conversation I learned, and there was a bridge built.
Yeah. Have you noticed in your experience that a lot of times people are doing such great things, but they're so hyper focused to get their whatever they're working on that sometimes they don't notice that the person right next door is actually doing awesome stuff too.
Yes.
And they just don't know. You get so busy, and so I think one of the good things that's coming out of this is you're bringing people that are focused to do good things from over here who may never talk to this person who's doing great things, and that's kind of what I wanted to do the podcast on too. Is just to let everybody look. Everybody's got good things going on. We work together. We can get a lot more done rather than everybody hyper focusing on one event, especially if there's some kind of a traditional, the younger kids versus the older kids, the white people versus black people. It's
Right.
why we don't have to be all channeled. We can work together, and every one of the events will get better, I think. So that's just my opinion, though.
And I totally agree. And that's something else that we have tried, legacy. Our organization has tried to weave intergenerational transfer of knowledge into every event that we have. Our signature event is around women's health, and we do that every year. We're on our 10th one, and they've been amazing events. Women come from all over. They look forward to them every year. The theme of it is called Our Lives, Our Stories. And conceptually, because so many times we're afraid of being transparent, we don't tell our stories. We really miss out on human connection. We miss out on the strength that you just described with collaboration. And then in the Black church tradition, we have something called testimony service. And testimony service is just standing up, telling about how good God has been. And when you hear that, your faith
it does
did
help.
it for Scott, he'll do it for me. He did it for
you
the
don't
Sam.
know if the whole crowd's identifying with what you're saying, but if there's one person that needed to hear that particular thing, then you've served your purpose. If you've touched one person, and even though you've maybe got 1,000 people listening to you, they might have all tuned out, had their own, but one person, and
Just
maybe in the
one.
back,
Exactly.
and that could be the one person that you made change, and I think that's what makes it worth it.
So that's why we call it the Our Lives, Our Stories.
That's great. That's great. See, I know you had a lot more, and we've got probably hours worth of stuff we could talk about. She's so active. And now you went to undergrad at SIU. Where did you do your undergrad?
I went to Shawnee Community College.
Started there.
I did, and then I finished. So I was non-traditional on a lot of levels.
Right.
But I finished my undergraduate degree through a non-traditional program at Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago.
Right.
They had a program called University Without Walls. So
I've heard of it.
You've heard of that. So you actually designed your own learning program, and you had field advisors, and to get your bachelor's degree, you had to do an oral exam, and it was almost like defending a dissertation.
Interesting.
It was a lot more rigorous because it was so different.
That's very non-traditional.
But 2 degrees from here at SIU, a master's in social work, and of course the JD.
Yeah, you're JD. Yeah. So you
Go Salukis.
And you're teaching at Shawnee now still
in the summers,
summers?
And I teach at Southeast Missouri State
at SEMO.
University as
That's
as an adjunct.
Right. And I am an alumni. I got my associates kind of untraditionally, if you want to call it that. If that's a thing. I went through John A. I got my associates there.
Yes.
Made connections that are still alive today. We're still keeping in touch with professors and students that I met over there.
Yes. The community college system is just one of the
great.
most, it's just a jewel that too many people don't really realize.
Yes.
But it's great. And a lot of great people got their start there.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. I think we talked about earlier. My Johnny Logan associate's degree hangs on the wall with all my other stuff, including the Juris Doctorate. I'm just as proud of it. So I loved coming through there. And your work, what's your position at Johnny right at the moment?
I'm an art instructor, and I teach art appreciation.
That's great. And I've walked down that hallway where the art is, because I'm not an artist, right? But I love it. I'll be down in the mechanical wing with all the machines, where they have the trade schools that teach them how to weld and everything. That's my comfort zone, if you will. But I loved walking down the artist section. You get to see. And I tried to convince my son-in-law, who was going to John A., as a welder, because he's got such an artist eye that I appreciate, because I don't have it. And so he did take a class at John A. and kind of melded the welding world with the art world and made some pretty interesting stuff. So you guys do good work over there. I love it.
Thank you.
there's just, the beautiful thing about the arts, even if you say we don't have, all of us have a creative spirit. So, you talk about crafting an argument of that case that we talked about. We've crafted some really novel arguments.
True. I never looked at it as art, but I guess it is.
It
Actually
is.
Is more of a performing art. It is what we do as part of our, among all the other hats we wear as attorneys and small business owners. So
yes, indeed.
It is great.
Indeed.
Well, this is awesome. I'm so glad that you guys allowed me to have you in, and so you could talk about this stuff. And I definitely want to help get the word out more. And we'll. So this will be pushed out through at least our social media platforms, and our wonderful engineer Lucas here with Growing Media Marketing, who helps us out so much with all of our stuff. A little shout out to them because they do great work.
They do.
They'd be more than happy to share all the information with you. So, and this show, if you guys want to push it out on your platforms to help, we really want to get the word out about what you're doing, Lynn, in the community, and the great artists that we have. That I personally don't feel that enough people know that we have this kind of artist and culture that's right here. You really wouldn't have to take a vacation. You could stay right here in Southern Illinois and just be overwhelmed with what's available. And a lot of people that just come in here, they go to work, maybe they go a few years to college here, get their degree, and never really experience what I call Southern Illinois, because it's, I mean, we've got, like the oldest tree down there, I hate to call it the bayous because I know I'm not calling it the right, but there's
Cache River Valley.
Right, River. I'm sorry, and but everything.
The
not
wineries.
just, yes.
I've got a group
when
coming
you put
down
it all
for
together.
that.
It's just so much going on. It's overwhelming to me that you could just spend a year here and probably never see everything we have to offer.
And I seek also to be an ambassador for my deep South counties.
Yes.
All you hear, unfortunately, about Alexander and Pulaski County. I'm sure you didn't know there was a fine arts center in Cairo.
I did not until you told me.
Yes,
So,
and you actually come to Cairo, have a friend.
Yes,
Chris didn't know.
He didn't know.
Yeah,
and he's born and raised there.
Yeah. So it's, and I think it's
people,
because our communities are so, we don't really talk to each other.
Exactly.
It's a black man that owns that center, that's running it. He's an accomplished violinist. He's a member of the Paducah Symphony Board.
Wow.
Yeah, just an amazing guy, Harold Jones, and we're happy to be one of his partners in that initiative.
That is great.
I forgot to mention, we've got 2 other concerts. We have a jazz artist, New Orleans style jazz, and in fact, she has at least 2 fans. Shout out to Bob Henson and Hugh Muldoon here in Carbondale. Doreen Ketchens. If you've ever been to the French Quarter in the last, at least in the last 5 years,
I have.
Yeah, she's a staple there. I'm sure you have seen her band playing there in the Quarter.
I probably have. I didn't make the connection though. Wow, that's great.
She's an internationally known clarinetist. So she's going to be doing jazz in June, and she's collaborating with John Windings, a member of Shawnee Community College Board of Trustees.
Familiar. Yes.
And also a music educator and a pastor. Once again, here are 2 people that probably would have never had the opportunity to work together.
And both doing great things right here locally, right next to each other in some instances. And just didn't ever. And you made the connection between the 2 of them?
Well, and the Healing Illinois Initiative, so I have to shout out to them and the leadership of the Southern Illinois Community Foundation, who really brought this funding to Southern Illinois through the state as well as Chicago Trust. So they're really putting a lot of energy and effort in helping with the other. There's 26 projects, so be sure and look them all up.
She's trying to play humble. She's not going to take any credit for facilitating and making this happen. But we all know.
And he doesn't want to tell people he helped save a life.
We're all too humble, I guess. But I thought
no, it's a good thing.
It is a great thing because I think that's really important to have people that. Because really, when you get down to it, there's not that much difference between all of us, and sometimes we form the differences in our head. And if you get to meet people, it's much tougher to form some bizarre concept of what people are about when you meet them and have to sit down and shake hands. So
exactly.
So it's great. It was great meeting you, and I look forward to seeing your performance. I'm definitely going to get more involved. And again, we're out there on all the social platforms. So Lynn is actually a practicing lawyer as well. So don't forget, if you have any, we work well together. She's trying to focus her practice now in criminal law mostly. Am I correct?
Well, when you're a solo practitioner, I have a running joke that just think of me as Olivia Pope. Whatever your problem is, we'll figure it out.
Let's figure it out.
And it may be calling a colleague.
That happens a lot.
A case
It really does
and,
happen a lot, and that's why I wanted people to get to know some of my resources as well in the area. Is because if you call us and it's really not in our wheelhouse, but you've got a genuine issue and you need help, I'm not going to just put you out. I'll call. I know people, and if I can't help you, I can put you in contact with some great people like Lynne Chambers who can help you, and vice versa. So it's not all about competition with other lawyers. Most of the lawyers in Southern Illinois actually work pretty well together.
We do.
Not all, but most of them do, and I think more of us need to because it's really about helping the people. So
it really is, and we that stereotype of lawyers being greedy and sharks and all of that stuff. But there's many lawyers that really went into it to help people.
That's right.
I was a social worker for a long time. Law is social work on steroids.
It is. And as you have I've discovered, if you really do take the emphasis off of making a quick buck as being a lawyer or a mechanic or anything else for that matter, and you're just good to people and do a good job and do your best and care about the people that come in to see you, the money comes. So that's been the reward for me, is that I can actually do this. And because we all got to eat. I mean, I'm not trying to, but you don't have to go into it with the capitalist mentality where I've got to do this to make money. No, just go out there and do your job well and be good to people and listen and try to fix problems for them, and the rest of it will take care of itself. It really has for me so far.
Yeah, indeed. And if I had to put my brand, the brand that I want to build as a lawyer is caring, compassionate, and competent.
That's it.
So that's my brand, and I guess that's my personal brand.
It is, because I've known you long enough to know that is. You wouldn't have to tell anybody, and they would figure that out. It was great having you on, and I'd definitely like to have you back on, talk about maybe more specific things. Maybe we could even take some calls or some written questions for some people about some topics, specifically like some of the big decisions that have happened recently that are really we're much into and follow very closely. And I wouldn't mind if you'd come back on with more stuff if we have time. And I know you probably have a busy schedule, but
I'd love to come back.
That'd be great. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And we'll set up some more time so you guys can hear more of what they have to say and less about what I have to say. It'd be great.
It was a great conversation, very rich. Thank you again, DeSande, for being a member of the Artist Collective.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.